Welcome back to the Knickknack Review. I am your host, Clint the Knickknack, and today we're looking at Loki Episode 3. Let's get started. So this episode starts out with Lady Loki inside the mind of one of the Minutemen, or rather Minute Women in this case, and the way it starts out, it kind of reminds me of The Matrix.
I must get out of here. I must get free.
She's trying to find the location of the timekeepers, and she thinks that if she can get to enough Minutemen, eventually one of them will tell her. And it starts out with them just, having drinks or whatever on Earth, and that's kind of like, oh, wait a minute, how would they know what Earth is? And it just kind of brings up, again, more questions. But it's kind of like, did she create that reality in order for her to be comfortable, or was that actually part of her past that Lady Loki actually channeled or triggered to where she was able to be normal? And this is right before Loki actually catches up to her in the supermarket, so it's a little bit of a flashback, but not too far. And that's when Loki and Lady Loki actually have a little bit of a showdown. They end up transporting back to the TVA headquarters. There you go with another showdown. And I must say she holds her own really well with the Loki that we know. After a little bit of a tussle with the agents and between themselves, they ended up escaping the TVA, and they end up on a planet, I don't remember the name, but I think the year was 2077, I believe. It is destined to be destroyed. It's on another collision course with another planet or a moon. You can see it from a distance, and man, I must say that the special effects in this series, along with Wanda and WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, but they all, you could tell, have a really good budget. It's shot really well. It's got great effects, and I'm so glad to see that, because we all know what to expect from Marvel when it comes to the cinematic universe, but I was hoping it wouldn't get watered down when it comes to TV series, because we know the potential that television series have when it comes to what they can do. You see a lot of it on the CW. Now, you can say what you want about the CW and their special effects, but we know what they can do. We know what, say, Game of Thrones could do. And we know what all these different ones can do, but with Marvel, especially considering this is in the same continuity, it has to look the same. You can't downgrade anything, especially if you're going to bring in something like Loki and alternate realities. You really have to raise the bar, and you really have to spend some money.
Spared no expense.
And you can tell they did. They did a really good job with this planet. It's just like a dying planet, basically. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the planet the Soul Stone was on. Vormir, of course. How could I forget? But yeah, it kind of reminded me of that planet a little bit. And actually, I thought with the preview, I thought that's what they were on, but it's not. And it's just, they do a really good job in setting the tone of each episode. And this one is just, it's kind of, even though it's a dying planet, it's kind of beautiful. A lot of purple everywhere. And it's just, I don't know, they do a really good job. So once they arrive on this planet, their little time pad or whatever that gets them back actually ends up breaking. So it's they go on a little adventure.
I'm going on an adventure!
To find an alternate source of energy to power this thing and to find basically a way back home. And one thing I liked about this episode in particular, it did feel kind of like a filler episode, but one that allows you to not only get a more fleshed out Loki, because to me, you can't flesh Loki out enough. He's been around for thousands of years. He's got so many stories, so many things that he's done. And with this new Loki, you learn that she's not really a Loki. Okay, so it's kind of weird. You have, in the comic books, okay, she goes by the name of Sylvie, I think. And in the comic books, she was not necessarily a Loki. She was more of a different version of Enchantress. But Loki was her sole reason for existing. Now, this is not the 616 universe. This is an alternate one. The Enchantress in the 616 is the Enchantress. She is from Norse mythology and whatnot. But this character in this show is more of a version of that version. So it's kind of a little bit of an amalgamation of different types of enchantresses, but it's not exactly Enchantress. But she does mention that name, so you can kind of call her Lady Loki, you can call her Enchantress.
You can call her whatever you like.
She's not exactly Enchantress. So for me, it's just, hey, it's kind of like we have Enchantress. Not really. But hey, as a Marvel fan, I take what I can get. So as far as I'm concerned, this is Enchantress, and this is all we're going to get. So we learned quite a bit from her in this scene. There is this one funny scene where they're in the train trying to go to a different location, and Loki breaks out into song. At first it was kind of funny, but after he started singing very sad, and it gave me some Lord of the Rings vibes with Pippin when he was singing. At the battle, and I was like, whoa, it didn't like make me cry or nothing, but it was just like, wow. It was very pleasant singing, good voice, but it definitely gave me Lord of the Rings vibes, and I thought that was very appropriate considering it's Norse mythology and, you know, time period and all that stuff. But yeah, it was a really nice scene. Now they're on their way to this energy source, and they actually find a rocket that can get them off of the planet. And their whole time that they're there, it's trying to get to that point, they come up against some TVA agents, or they come up against some people basically stopping them. And there's this one scene where like it's kind of like the end of the world scene type scenario, and the planet's getting closer and closer to just exploding. And you can really, really see in this episode that Marvel has nerfed Loki from the beginning. And it's a shame, really, because if we would have seen this Loki in the Avengers, he wouldn't have needed an army, man. And that's kind of one thing that I kind of wish they... I mean, I don't regret what they did in Avengers, but if they would have showed this Loki, he wouldn't have needed that army much. Because, man, this Loki was like, you know, like this huge building was coming down. He's like, hold on. And he just stops the building and just puts it back up there. And he's shooting energy blasts at these agents and whatnot. I'm like, where was this Loki, man? I mean, he could have easily... I mean, I know he had a grand scheme, a plan in the Avengers, but it was like, if we would have seen this Loki, oh my gosh, a lot more people would have more respect for him. He could have not necessarily taken down Thanos, but he could have at least given Thanos a fight. He didn't even really try. But I really enjoyed seeing his powers in this one. His magic, his energy projection, his telekinesis. I'm really anxious to see what else they're going to allow him to do, because I'm very familiar with what Loki can do, but I mean, I just hope they let him loose, and we really get to see the Loki that at least people like me really, really know what he's capable of. And there's one scene where Sylvie actually tells Loki that, and it's kind of a reveal, was that the variants, or I'm sorry, rather the people that work for the TVA, they weren't created by the Timekeepers. That's what she tells him, and he's like, wait, what? I thought they were created by the Timekeepers. She's like, no, why would you think that? They're all variants, just like you and me. So all those people that work for the TVA have been captured by somebody, maybe the Timekeepers themselves, been plucked out of time and said, okay, so you're variants, you're going to work for me, you're going to work for me, you're going to work for me, and from then on, I've created HR, I've created management, and therefore now you do the hiring, you know? That's kind of how it felt, and I'm like, man, how did all that start? You know, I mean, I really want that backstory, and how it started before the TVA, before those buildings, before everything, you know, got the way it is now. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows like Miss Minutes would have you believe.
That is not nice.
But yeah, that was kind of a reveal. So it's like, whoa, Mobius, you weren't created. You were a regular person, I'm sure, at one point. So what the heck? Like, what's your backstory? And I really have a feeling now, and this was actually the first episode Mobius was not in, and we get to see... I'm hoping we get to see what his life was like before the TVA, because I was even wondering myself, like, does he ever sleep? Does he have a home to go to? You know, does he has a break? Because he's always working. So that's going to be really interesting. Now, I have a feeling that there are agents that were created, that they're not all variants. But I could be wrong. But again, I guess you could say, time will tell. Hey. And so after their little adventure, they get to where they needed to be, and their only way home is completely destroyed. It just blows up, and they're just kind of left with like, okay, our hope is all gone now, and that's literally where it ends. So again, a cliffhanger. So it looks like each episode is going to be with a cliffhanger, which I'm perfectly fine with, because it brings in more questions. It keeps you wanting more, and I like that. And it's not episodic. It's very one straight story, and I really enjoy that about this series. It's beautiful, acting, cast, everything is great. I I'm really anxious to see how far they're going to go with this. I know it's gotten three seasons already confirmed, so 2 more after this one. But yeah, I like what they're doing. I like it a lot. Well, that about does it for this episode, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this particular episode. Any theories, any ideas you might have. Let me know what you think of the timekeepers and what the agents were before the timekeepers created the TVA. Give me a little bit of a backstory, what you think it might have been. And while you're there, don't forget to, well, you know what to do. As always, I am Clint the Knick-Knack, and I will see you on the next one.